infested, and who knows what else is in there, rat infested.
Yeah. A lot of these community gardens emerge from an abandoned lot.
Right.
Others are schoolyards. Others are church lots.
Right. They're not all abandoned lots. You're correct. Yeah.
Right, but mainly, inner city, it's where these gardens are needed. We need to teach about nutrition, about where your food comes from, and that's what these gardens are doing.
That's the amazing thing, is that how many people have gotten up there and won Community Garden of the Year award. I remember the first time I went to it, and the guy was about 6'2", and he was in charge of that garden. He got up there and he said, he started tearing up. He said, I didn't know how to grow a tomato. I didn't know if I could do this.
Right.
He didn't even know where vegetables and stuff came from. Both you and I had gardening background through our grandparents and parents. Yeah. But to see people that had no idea where their food came from actually growing the food.
So being able to provide them the tools, the education, the resources needed makes them more successful and sustainable, really, to take it for the long term.
And you talk about education, because you guys actually start, once they do the application process, and you help them get the garden, or they have a garden, then the classes start, what, in the winter?
Yes, February, the whole month of February, we have an Urban Garden Academy that teaches grant recipients. So there's also grants out there, Bill, that can help these gardens get going. One through the City of Columbus, one through the Scott's Miracle-Gro Company, through the Columbus Foundation, and another now with the county. So the city and the county have really jumped on board as well. They have seen the impact to our neighborhoods, the positive impact to the people and to the neighborhoods and to safety.
Well, that's what I like about it, because you're changing a neighborhood one block at a time.
Absolutely.
And I've heard people get up there and give testimony. They didn't know their neighbors, crime-infested areas, and now the people are coming out and they're tending that garden, and when people are there that don't belong, they're like, hey, what are you doing here? You don't belong in this neighborhood. Who are you?
We're bringing back that front porch mentality. People getting to know their neighbors, and it really generates cross-cultural connections. Our neighborhoods are a melting pot of many different cultures here in Columbus, and so it gives us that opportunity. I mean, what is food but culture, and what is culture but food? It all comes back to that, and people are very proud. What is
food but culture, and what is culture but food? I like that.
People are proud.
Yeah, you can bring people together with food,
of their culture. Absolutely. And they want to share it then. And so, with these 300 gardens out there, every one of them, I'd say 99.9% of them, give that food away, give a lot of that food away.
Yes,
first to their nearby neighbors and participants of the garden, then into food pantries and soup kitchens, and to others that need it. So they're growing for others. It's fantastic. So we're talking about, we've mentioned a couple times, the awards program. So once a year, we honor and celebrate these folks and these groups and these gardens and individuals who are out there doing great things in their neighborhood. So through the Grown to Green Awards and Harvest Celebration, we come together, we break bread, it's a potluck. So people bring in great cultural food from their gardens. So we have a delicious meal, sit down and eat together, and then we celebrate and give out cash awards with trophies in 7 different categories to these gardens. So it's fantastic. Cool.
And the cash awards go back to the gardens, basically.
Yeah, it's another sustainability opportunity for them. The prizes range in from $250 to $750, so they can take you on the rest of this season.
What's cool too is you bring youth into the program, and you get a small stipend, like interns, and you kind of get those youth involved because they can earn some money. But then what happens?
Well, with the youth, we want to train them. We want to teach them. This may be a lifelong hobby for them. It may be a trade. It may be a job for them, going into farmers markets, going into landscape, going into the green industry. So they use that training, but all the while they're learning so much community about their neighbors, as we talked, about safety, about joining gardens, not gangs, and to be able to make proper choices, not only in everyday life, but in diet choices. These neighborhoods are afflicted with what I call diabetes. I mean, it's diabetes.
Well, they've got the convenience store, but they don't necessarily have the whole food store.
No, the mom and pop stores are, good for selling beer, wine, and cigarettes and potato chips, and not a lot of produce.
Not a lot of produce.
So there isn't access. Some of these
grow potatoes.
Oh yeah.
I mean, you can buy them so inexpensively, but there's something about taking a pitchfork and digging potatoes. Well, I would pick them out.
Well, my famous lesson is, you have a dollar bill on you? My famous lesson is
you want $1 for this?
My grandfather taught me math in the garden. I didn't realize it. You know,
here, you can't see this, folks, unless you're on our Facebook.
Yeah, that's a one.
I'm giving him a $1 bill.
So Grandpa would, you know, a big half-acre garden in the backyard. We had 10 kids in the family, and this garden fed us. And so, you know, usually he caught me. Bill, he'd call me out to the garden.
Yeah.
And I'd go out there, and he says, I want you to plant these 2 long rows of beans, and I want them 3 inches apart. Here's $1. And I thought, well, what are you paying me for ahead of time, Grandpa? You know, I could run off, whatever. He said, no, you'll need it. He said, I want those beans 3 inches apart. Well, a $1 bill is 6 inches every time.
Okay, so
I folded it in half, so he just taught me division at the same time.
Hilarious.
Folded it in half and planted those beans 3 inches apart, and then I got to keep the $1 bill.
Well, give me that $1. You don't get to keep my.
Oh,
I think I just lost $1. That's funny. You get to keep the $1 for that great story.
Oh, no, it's just it is about teaching.
I thought you were going to show me how to make the mustard.
And I teach that lesson all the time to kids, and you know, whether it's math, whether it's science, whether it's social skills in the garden, but certainly about nutrition. These neighborhoods, as I said, are afflicted with a lot of pain and suffering sometimes through diet and choices. So, you know, we just, we work with them every day with what their needs are. Maybe they need to learn composting. Maybe they need to learn how to grow the best vegetables. Maybe they need to learn the flower end of it, the pollinators, you know, and how to bring the bees in.
They sure learn about weeds.
Yes,
and
absolutely.
They learn about varmints, because I always, that's the big discussion. How'd your garden do at these, at the Growing a Green Awards, is how'd your garden do, and how did you keep the groundhog out? Well, how did you keep the rabbit
I teach
out?
them 2 things about that, habit and habitat. So if those deer are out there at 6 o'clock in the evening, 6 o'clock in the morning, be out there. Let the dog out. You know, do something, some activities.
I thought about that.
It's habit and habitat. And then the habitat is, you know, what's around you. They're going to go after your greens early on because deer prefer browse off young trees. But if it's not out yet, they're going to go after your greens. So it's a matter of protection for a short amount of time. Learn the animal. And sometimes that's a 2-legged critter too. Because we get vandalism in some gardens.
You do get vandalism, or you get people maybe.
You know, we have secrets
eating off of it. That's not so bad.
We have secrets to deal with that too. Yes, you want to be able to feed your neighborhood, but you also want them to participate. Sometimes we'll plant a garden outside the fence and say, please pick from this garden and learn how to grow.
Well, then you have the challenge of, you know, you got these gardens that are don't have water to them.
Oh my goodness! Yeah.
And you've had area landlords come and say, hey, you can take water off of my building if you clean up that lot.
That's right.
And you may take care of this lot, and we get free water.
So
or the other thing is, of course, you're trucking in water in tanks and building all kinds of apparatus.
They're trading tomatoes and potatoes for it, or they're you know, doing that cleanup effort. But that landlord or that homeowner next door is very happy that garden's there. It was an abandoned lot, which attracted the bad element, which was a safety issue. But that element doesn't want to be there anymore. It's too pretty. It's too nice.
Too pretty,
it's too
and too many people out.
So they move on to the next dark abandoned alley, and that's where we go. You know, we'll work with the neighborhood, work with leaders. We don't go plant them and hope they come. We start working with neighborhood leaders and folks that want to do it, and then we teach them how. And then
you're growing leaders too, because they're already leaders in their community. They just need you as a resource to help them get started. But then I've noticed is you've got these kids coming up that are going to be the future leaders in those neighborhoods.
So we always say we're growing our future, you know, through these gardens, through these youth.
What's the age typical of the kids? Is there an age limit, or do you guys, whatever age, want to volunteer?
We have gardens at early childhood learning centers. So those are, you know, 2, 3, 4, and 5-year-olds that are learning to garden, and just sometimes they just want to go out and play in the dirt, and that's fine.
Play with the worms and stuff.
They dig a hole and they pour the whole packet of seeds in. That's okay. You let them. It's a lesson. And you know, the thinning, they learn how to thin.
If you poured the whole packet of seeds in the hole, you're going to learn to thin real quick.
They learn, you know, that it needs extra water. They learn about failure, but we allow them to do it. We allow them to do it.
Insects and bugs and good bugs and bad bugs.
Exactly. So cool. From the very young to grandma and grandpa who grew food when they grew up. They had to, and they're a little frustrated because they don't have the physical ability to garden so much anymore, but boy, they have it up here, and they love to tell us what to do, don't they? The seniors, they are seasoned citizens.
Correct.
I like to call them.
They're seasoned.
Seasoned citizens. They love to tell us what to do. They love that how hard it was for them because they went uphill both ways in the winter to garden barefooted. And,
but we talk, you talk about Columbus gardens, but this goes throughout Central Ohio because I know Granville has a lot of these gardens, right?
Oh yeah.
The churches and some of the schools and other.
And Growing to Green goes across.
Gantz Farm all the way down in Grove City is a great.
A couple of our winners are from other counties this year.
Yeah.
We go all over the country as well through
Correct.
a Grow 1000 program with other national partners such as Scott's Miracle Grow, National Gardening Association, kidsgardening.org.
The Grow 1000 program is that the goal is to grow 1,000 gardens.
Yes. There was a
so what cities have you gone to? What cities have you helped set this up in? I know you've been traveling.
Cities. I couldn't name them. So
Houston,
we do 5 cities every year.
5 new cities.
5 new cities every year. And last year we went to Mexico, to Monterrey. So International Garden. And that was a school garden that sat between 2 burbs that had feuding drug lords.
Yeah.
And this school was just a, really run down, dark, dangerous. The kids wouldn't go outside during the day. They went to school, did their thing, went home carefully. But we enhanced their garden. We made it edible. We grew herbs. We grew fruit trees.
Let's say, what did you grow down there? Because you obviously have a wider range of stuff.
Papayas and mangoes and lemons and just all those tropical plants. So now that schoolyard is safe. The community is involved. They've got their eyes on it, and the kids get the plant. So they love it. So throughout the nation, we've been doing this for about 10 years. So that's 50 cities that we've visited across the U.S. and Mexico to help install community gardens. This last year we went to New Bedford, Massachusetts, and I was able to recreate Polly Johnson's herb garden and historic house where Frederick Douglass lived when he was first freed as a slave. He was first a free man there. And so, and Polly was a famous confectioner. She made cookies and cakes and those kind of things. Would take them to the abolitionist meetings and things like this. So I found an old soapstone sink way in the backyard, and I drug that heavy thing up to the kitchen back door, and we planted out the herbs that she would have used, and then we recreated her herb garden in there, all with the help of several schools and neighborhood groups that got involved. So they were learning history at the same time.
So through this Grow 1000 program, which really started through Franklin Park Conservatory, and now you've got all these cities that are seeds for more gardens in those cities.
Absolutely, and I get calls from all over the country that say, hey, we saw your garden here, or we heard about this, and we want to do a gardening program in our neighborhood.
Okay, well, we'll be back in the next segment to talk more to Bill Dawson with the Growing to Green program at Franklin Park Conservatory and Botanical Gardens. And I want to talk a little bit more about the programs, but also about who were the winners this year.
Yeah, sounds good.
Awesome job.
All kinds of unique little stories. It's good.
That's great.
I'm a storyteller from way back.
That dollar thing was a good idea.
It is, and it's stuck with me forever. That
you show the kids that.
And I do show the kids, and I usually keep their dollar, or I try
to,
I did with you.
Yeah, you walk away with it.
But the dollar, stirring the manure tea, carrying rocks from one side of the barn to the other, just to build character, I think.
Your grandpa was having you do that. You see your grandpa?
Yeah.
That's funny.
There were so many things that, and back then it was a chore to me. Now it's a joy. It's an opportunity to teach others. So
we'd plant flowers at the flagpole down the street at kind of a cul-de-sac, and there's a flagpole, so we plant flowers, and the grandkids and the neighborhood kids would always help Kathy do it. And of course, they would get distracted by the worms and everything else. But every year they say, "Look at the flowers." They didn't plant one damn flower.
They were proud though. They were.
Oh yeah, but those are our flowers. It's like they sure are.
And that's the thing with the gardens too, that you know, you get the kids working in it, pretty soon they're standing at the garden gate like this, like, don't you mess with my garden, don't you tear it up, you know, so they're protecting it. We've got gardens out there that the gangs have declared untaggable because now I can't get gang members to get out of the gang and come join me, but they don't want little sister, little brother joining the gang. So it's an opportunity for them, so they respect the gardens, and they, you know, the little brother, little sister will get involved.
I know that one garden over by Frank Park Conservatory, they, you know, 2 dead bodies within a block of it. You know, that's the kind of neighborhood you're dealing with. So anyway, we'll go back, and if you want to talk about some of the winners, you can do that for 10, 12 minutes.
Absolutely.
And
I'll mention the categories maybe first, and then go through and tell them the winners.
And I guess I need to say more about who I am and what Greenscapes does too, so I'm going to put a plug in there in the middle.
You tell me when to hit the button.
Okay, go ahead. Good morning, Columbus. We're back with Down the Garden Path, our weekly gardening show. And today I'm really pleased. I've got Bill Dawson here from Franklin Park Conservatory and Botanical Gardens. And he's the manager for the Growing the Green program. So we just had our awards banquet at the Wells Barn at the Conservatory, and you say you had 7 winners, right?
Yeah, we have 7 different categories, and that goes from, we start out with the Neighborhood Improvement Project of the Year, and that's really you know,
how it's improving the neighborhood.
Sure.
And that's in many ways, as we talked. And then we have the Education Garden of the Year, because those gardens are teaching within the gardens as well. So the ones that are really teaching others and highlighting those opportunities, we recognize them. Then, as we talked a lot about today, the youth leadership. We recognize a youth under the age of 18 who is strong, showing leadership, and is really doing a good thing in the garden.
That's one of my favorites.
Yeah. And then the Sustainability Award, that's a garden that's both using green practices and has shown that they've stood the test of time. They've been there for a while, and they've been sustainable. And then the Community Gardener of the Year Award, that's the one you present, Bill, and
Greenscapes Award
sponsors. So that's it, Community Gardener of the Year. It's somebody who's out there really strong and passionate, maybe have started more than one garden, but of really helping others with their experience. And then we have the Community Garden of the Year, and that's kind of the highlight, you know, bringing up the highlight. That's the garden that's really kind of doing it all, you know, following our mission and doing all the good things. And then a newer award that we've put in the last couple years, the Boyd W. Bowden Garden Impact Award. And that's one a garden has chosen that has really been just made a super impact in the neighborhood through, you know, youth or nutrition or health, because health and wellness.
How involved Ellen Bowden is in that too.
Yes,
she goes out and looks at all those gardens to
and
help
it's
select
named for her past husband, who was a doctor and you know, with the Osteopathic Association Foundation, and so they sponsor that award. And so as I go through, you know, let's go back to the neighborhood improvement.
The other thing is that they have to apply for these awards. So there's a monetary award, but also they have to write a whole dossier about what.
Yeah, and we make it easier every year. It's an online process. It's pretty easy. We've now utilized some members of our women's board to actually help these gardeners write them. If they have trouble writing them, they'll go and help them use, you know, keywords and things like that. And really, sometimes you look at your garden and there's weeds growing. That's what you and I see a lot of times. I see the weeds. I don't see the good all the time. And so it's not about how your garden looks. It's about what it's doing.
Okay.
And so these gardens are doing great things.
So the winners are?
The winners are. The envelope, please. So the Neighborhood Improvement Project of the Year is the Giving Garden at Dutch Mill. This is one of our gardens outside Franklin County. It's in Marysville, Union County. And the Giving Garden are the employees of Dutch Mill Greenhouse and the Union County Health Department. They were able to build 14 raised beds and grow vegetables in them. So they have expanded their scope in the community, inviting Girl Scout troops to make plant markers, signage, and cut flowers from the garden and donate to local nursing homes. They utilize folks from the West Central Correction Facility as labor, but also teaching skills.
So they practice those skills at the Giving Garden. And then food donations, as we talked about. They have given over 1,000 pounds to the Marysville Food Pantry this year out of that garden, and the Hope Center. So they're doing all the right things to improve their piece, their neighborhood.
That's amazing.
And then we get into the Education Garden of the Year. And again, as I said, this usually is a garden that's teaching. So this is a Newark Sanctuary Garden. It's the Newark High School.
Oh.
And so, you know,
So
what's better than a
winter in
school
Marysville, and you have got a winter in
We've
Newark.
got a winter in Newark, and we help those gardens as well. So they call, they want advice, they want resources. So they really got the high school students to learn the necessity of sustainability and how to take risks and get dirty and try fresh foods. They really let the kids take on full responsibility and allow the decision making in the garden. So students, you know, they've been reluctant to even enter the garden. Now they're inspired to plant. They tend and harvest an apple orchard. They have an herb garden, a vegetable plot, and they build an aquaponic system so they can farm fish. So they're growing fish as well.
That's wild.
In school.
That's quite a
They
garden.
built their own storage, potting shed. So the students got to name the garden at the end of the year, and they named it the Sanctuary Garden because they felt it was a sanctuary and it was wholly theirs. So great project. So the youth leadership, my favorite, again, I think, you know, because we are growing our future with these youth. And so our winner there was Nasir Gross. And this young man, 10 years old, he's with the Urban Gems program of Ohio State University. And he's been, you know, certainly growing. He's taken a leadership role in the garden. They're using the tower gardens. You know, those that you grow in a tower.
Okay, yeah.
It's basically an aquaculture system as well, or aquaponic system.
Right. A lot of science involved.
There is. And so they've learned how to do that. They put it in 10 locations around the city, you know, extension office. They put it in recreation centers in their community. And Nasir has just really taken on a leadership role. And he comes from you know, a rough background family, and so he needed this to really take on. So he's showing the other kids, he's really encouraging his peers to be actively engaged. His goal for the upcoming year is to be elected president of the Urban Gems Garden Club.
He's only 10.
And he's 10. And
Confident
he believes
guy.
that his
Very
leadership will make sure that Urban Gems succeeds. They sell at our farm market at the Conservatory.
Okay.
They get a lot of produce from these towers.
Is that still going, or is that over for the season?
It just
now?
finished.
Okay,
It just
that's
finished.
every
We had it
Wednesday
last
night
week.
at the Conservatory and the farm market.
And
Nasir was, I got a kick out of him, because
Nasir
here,
was
10-year-old Nasir is how you say
Nasir.
it. You know, he came walking up there. There's probably 150 people in that room.
Yeah.
Like he owned the place. I mean, he just walked right up and accepted his award
Yeah.
and thanked his aunt and
Yeah.
told about the program.
I was very
If
proud.
I was 10, I wouldn't be standing at that
I
microphone,
know.
I'll tell you
Yeah.
that.
He was very proud to be up there. And
Yeah,
good to
you
be
guys are growing some
recognized. So
leaders.
these awards give them the recognition
Sure.
they really deserve.
What's the next award?
The next award was a sustainability award.
Mm-hmm.
That went out to the Good Samaritan Garden. This garden's been in production for 10 years.
Okay.
They grow on rooftops. They grow in parking lots, in swimming pools, baby pools. They'll plant out
Whatever
in
they can
baby
plant in.
pools, whatever they can plant in containers. So on rooftops and parking lots, they harvest rainwater. So they are using green practices. They're really, and then the vegetables that they grow goes to patients at the Helping Hands Free Clinic. And also there's plots available for refugee families from Bhutan and Nepal to grow their native vegetables. So it's really been a key contributor to a more diverse and sustainable and green Columbus through this garden. So we get to the Community Gardener of the Year Award. This is the Charles Madison.
I got to present
Bill
as
presented
the
this.
sponsor from
And,
Greenscapes.
yeah. And this went out to Charles Neighbor, and he's co-manager of the Charles Madison Neighbor Memorial Garden at the Church of Christ at the Apostolic Faith over on Brentnell. And this garden's just a few years old. But it has done amazing things. They have a market at their garden. They have bake sales made from some of the produce, you know, from the garden. It's really about bringing in the community and educating everybody.
Okay.
So.
And the next one was Community
Garden of the Year was the Bible Way Skip Community Garden. This is in kind of a rough area on the hilltop on Sullivan Avenue in Highland. But they've just turned that place into an oasis of different production, growing food and growing community, and lots of kids involved through the church. And it's really about, it's kind of an anti-violence garden as well.
The last one was
the Impact Award. So Nasir worked with the Urban Gems.
Yes.
Their whole program won this award. So Nasir actually got to come up twice. So he was really proud to come up and get 2 awards. But they're growing aeroponic gardening, and the Tower Garden Farms have sprung up all over Columbus, engaging high schoolers in STEM and experiential learning programs, improving dietary habits across communities, and providing young people with tools for the workforce. So their goal was to reach 100 students a year, develop 90 tower gardens, and establish a sustainable business model by 2020. So they're looking forward.
That's a lot. That's amazing.
So, and this is just the winners. There were, 50 candidates, the nominees. That's why I don't judge, Bill, because I think they all deserve to win, and I would choose them all.
Well, that's a wrap for our show this week. I really want to thank Bill Dawson from Franklin Park Conservatory Botanical Gardens and his wonderful Growing a Green program. And if you have any questions, you can certainly call over to the conservatory and talk to Bill.
Yeah.
If you have any landscape questions, you can call Greenscapes at 614-837-1869 or go to our website at greenscapes.net. But we'll be back next week with another edition of Down the Garden Path.
Great. Thanks, Bill.
Thank you. Thank you.
You guys are on a roll.
Yeah, I know. I'm sorry to cut you short,
man. It's getting running late.
Just to cut some of that off. Did
You
you
may finish.
end it?
Yeah.
Yeah.